Hey guys, today we'll be taking a look at the 2021 Iowa Republican Presidential Caucus and the final polls released for the first race in the 2024 GOP primary. And so currently, of course, Donald Trump is in the lead with a commanding 51.3% of the vote to DeSantis' 18.6%, and Nikki Haley, who is currently polling at 16.1. And so when we take a look at the polling here, we see Donald Trump with a consistently strong lead. His weakest point was at the very beginning of the campaign when he and DeSantis were pretty close to each other, 40 to 28. But since then, Ron DeSantis has seen a considerable drop in the polling, down to 18.6%, while Nikki Haley has seen a sharp rise from 4% back in August, and just 4 months later, she is now polling at 15.8%. And so when looking at the Republican presidential caucus in Iowa for this year, it is clear that the winner is going to be Donald Trump, while Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis are in a pretty close matchup for second place. Vivek Ramaswamy, who peaked at 7.7% earlier last year, is currently polling in fourth place at 5.9%, and Chris Christie, the final major candidate in this race, who is likely to drop out after New Hampshire, is currently polling at 3.1%. And we also have Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, who has yet to drop out despite not having qualified for a debate in over 3 months. So looking at the latest polling, it's clear Donald Trump is going to win. But there is a more interesting story behind it, as if you move to the next state, New Hampshire, we can see Nikki Haley is quickly catching up to Donald Trump in the polling, putting herself in true contention for the nomination. 538 is a little bit more updated with the latest polling. And as you can see here, according to the two latest polls, Trump only leads Nikki Haley by 4%. These are two different samples conducted by the same pollster over a different time period. 600 likely voters in New Hampshire each time. The latest poll shows Trump at 37, Haley at 33, and the previous poll showed Trump at 33, Nikki Haley at 29. There's another poll from earlier last month that shows Donald Trump only ahead by 3% in a head-to-head matchup against Nikki Haley, while if Trump was put up against Ron DeSantis in a head-to-head matchup, Trump would win by 25 points. So after Iowa, it's clear that New Hampshire is going to be the most important race in this primary season. If Donald Trump destroys the rest of the field like he does in Iowa, then we'll probably see him on a pretty clear path to the nomination. But if Nikki Haley can perform well in New Hampshire, she could really have a shot at contending for the nomination in August when the convention is held. So when looking at the latest polling right here in New Hampshire, what we're seeing is that Ron DeSantis is having a minimal impact in the state. Even Chris Christie is polling above him right now. So if Nikki Haley can do well in Iowa, she doesn't even have to get second place. She could perform a strong third place finish, and as long as she and Ron DeSantis are pretty close to each other, as long as Nikki Haley is within striking range of DeSantis, she is going to have no trouble finishing in a very solid second in New Hampshire, maybe even getting close to defeating Trump. The betting markets right now for New Hampshire give Nikki Haley a 23% chance at winning, and if you look at her odds just a few months ago, it was in the very low single digits. So she has seen a significant rise in the state over the last few months, and if candidates like Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, if they really want to see Donald Trump lose, which I think is unlikely for candidates like Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, then you really have to consider whether or not they're going to drop out, because after New Hampshire, I think Ron DeSantis' campaign is over. Vivek Ramaswamy already knows his campaign is over. He's already stopping a bunch of ads that he's already paid for. Asa Hutchinson's campaign ended before it even began. So after New Hampshire, I'm pretty confident that Chris Christie is going to drop out and endorse Nikki Haley. That would give her a pretty significant boost going to the third contest in South Carolina, where Nikki Haley is also performing well in. According to the most recent poll, she polled at 25%. Earlier polls, she was barely able to make 20%. And so Ron DeSantis, who was a second place candidate in New Hampshire for a long time, has dropped to third place here. So you really don't see any path forward for DeSantis at this point, just looking at all the data and how the states are ordered. He's barely second in Iowa. He might finish fourth in New Hampshire, and a third place finish in South Carolina would certainly end his presidential aspirations for the next election. So if these candidates drop out, if they endorse Nikki Haley, I think Chris Christie is definitely going to. Ramaswamy will likely endorse Trump. He and Haley have had some pretty nasty spats on the debate stage, and Ron DeSantis, you'll really have to see. I think there's a good chance he might just not endorse anyone, and of course he is obviously eyeing a 2028 run, and so are these other candidates in the field. But Nikki Haley, if he can get that Christie endorsement before New Hampshire, that would make a big difference. Nikki Haley would be up at almost 35 points to Trump's 46, and this isn't even taking in consideration those two more recent polls that I just talked about earlier. So that will be it for this video. It's clear Trump will win in Iowa, but I think the bigger story is what's going to happen after it, most importantly in New Hampshire, but also in South Carolina. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below who you think will win the Iowa and New Hampshire primaries. Do you think that Nikki Haley has a chance at battling Trump for the nomination after these early contests? Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and I will see you guys in the next video.